what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good. I got an interesting episode for you this week. I got to talk to Deanna DiLandro. She's a musician from New Jersey, but she does a million things. She also manages a record label based out of Richmond, Virginia called Egg Hunt Records. It focuses a lot on indie rock stuff that's I'm not super familiar with, but I can definitely appreciate. And it was very cool to pick her brain about how, she goes about doing things for that label. A lot of the artists they worked with have gone on to sign with bigger labels and become like fucking huge too. So that was really interesting to hear about. On top of that, Deanna also helped run a music shop / venue in Highland Park, New Jersey called Chamber 43. She was super integral to it. She basically ran the place, coordinated a lot of events, hosted open mics, did the layout of the store and everything. And it was cool to talk to her about that because before she did that, she ran basement shows in New Jersey, in New Brunswick. So it was cool for her to see her mindset. Like, I just want to bring people together and like throw an awesome, memorable night. And I think it paid off because that venue was super important and it still is. They're relocating now to New Brunswick. Also, Deanna's a singer. She sings in a band called Powerlines, and she also does a lot of freelance singing stuff, which is awesome. She got kind of digged out of some money recently. I saw her post about it online, and that's why I asked her to come on this week to talk about that. There's a lot of fishy shit out there, and a lot of people promise things. And she sang on this song that someone else, they made the beat for. So she really didn't have a say of what they did. And, she ended up getting kind of dicked out of getting any real money because this other guy was, got tricked, basically. It's all tricks, the music industry. One other thing was that she sang on a song that was in the game Rocket League, which I thought was wild. And she has a real interesting story about that. And I don't want to spoil it, but I will say, fuck the guy that she worked with because he's a huge piece of shit and his music sucks now. I checked some of that out too. Lastly, I'd like to apologize to New Noise Magazine for the statements I make during this podcast. New Noise Magazine, I'm very sorry, and please feature me on the cover of your next magazine. Thank you so much. All right, enjoy. Okay, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. We have a special guest this week, and I have a lot of questions for them. Deanna DiLandro is here.
Hey.
What's up?
Hey, choke artists.
That's me.
Is that what you call your... do you call your fans choke artists?
I don't know if I have fans, so I don't think I can do that yet.
I'll be a choke artist then.
Yeah. Shout out to the choke artist nation, I guess.
Yes.
Well, so Deanna's a good guest because you posted about some weird shifty shit that happened to you a couple weeks ago that I wanted to ask you about, but you also manage your own record label type thing.
Yes.
Right. And you also were an integral part to a local music venue record shop around here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you've done a lot for like local music and you seem very into music in general.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So can you tell me what happened with, so you did a song, you collaborated with someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a vocalist and I do a lot of freelance work. I did a lot last year, via this platform called Vocalizer. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a great platform for producers to connect with vocalists and vice versa. And through that platform, I was given a gig, and it was for a basically unknown producer in Italy. And it was this really fun EDM song, and I just kind of went for it and had some fun with it. And I think the track came out pretty nicely. But that was last year. And then earlier this year, the producer told me that they were going to contract the song with this record label called No Face Records.
So I was looking into them a little bit, and it seems like they do song by song contracts.
Yeah.
Like that's the appeal of it. Cause I think, to push back against like a lot of artists get locked into like 5-year things, like, or 5-album contract, at least like more like in the past. Now it's like a lot of labels don't want to take that risk anyway. And a lot of bands don't want to be tied down for that long because so much is changing, I feel like, with the music industry. But that used to be the thing, right? You were locked in with a label for years and albums, and then like they sucked you dry, and then like you couldn't make it work anymore. So I looked online, like threads, people talking about them, and someone who worked at the label was doing some damage control, like we're a collaborative community. But go on, I guess. What happened with the track?
So we were presented with a contract that, yes, is for contracting the one song, as you mentioned. And the terms were that the master would be under the ownership of the label for 30 years, one song. And then there were 3 contributors to the track, so 2 producers and myself, all receiving, if it were just the 3 of us, posting the song online, all 3 parts would receive an equal percentage of the royalties. And the royalty payout that they were willing to give for this one song was 3.5% of the proceeds to each person, which is minuscule, because not only, I guess, if you do the numbers, that's like almost, I think like 10 to 15% for the artists, and then the rest goes to the label. So, the payout is virtually nothing for a song that is being put out by people that aren't quite known. Even if we were to receive all of the proceeds, it would still be minuscule.
It's not a lot. Yeah. So what did they offer you guys in exchange for signing on this single with them?
I, to this day, have no idea.
Okay.
I corresponded with the label representative a few times until I just exhausted my efforts, because there was just radio silence pretty much. I was asked if there was any type of rollout plan, if they were going to do any type of playlisting.
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. And there was just no response. So I kind of just let it go mostly because what could I really do if I follow up 5 times and there's just nothing on the other end, coming back from the other end. The producer seemed quite indifferent, but I think they're also pretty new to releasing music. So, maybe their expectations were different than mine. But yeah, I was able to get one response to the royalty deviation, and I was able to get all of our payouts to be at least 5%. So that was a win, but still not amazing.
And it's off of Spotify revenue mostly.
Yeah, all of the digital streaming platforms would be where the revenue streams would come from. Yeah, I don't know if
sucks. It sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they have control of the song. If they wanted to license it, they could with our approval.
Okay, so that's something at least that can maybe turn into something.
Could be, but it's doubtful that they are really going to go any extra mile for this song. I mean, the day that it was released as well, and the day that I made the post that you referenced about kind of my upset about this situation, there was just no promotion at all about the song. And they did a few days later post about it with a little graphic on their Instagram, but it's not, there really isn't much traffic on that. I think their account seems like they paid for followers because not many of the posts are interacted with or engaged to the degree of followers that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is when someone has a huge online presence, I audit them. Like, how many people actually care? Because a lot of the internet stuff is appearances, and they could have impressed this guy you did a track with, like, oh, we're a record label. Like, sometimes you just put records behind it and everyone's like, whoa, this is awesome, Yeah,
so, I mean, it's like you can be totally just winging it or just present yourself as a specific entity that you just aren't or not delivering on. And that's just like my biggest concern for artists, especially young artists who don't have, much experience with releasing music and don't really know where to start or, how to protect themselves against these types of agreements and these types of people who are just looking to take advantage of artists. I'm just so angered by it. And all I want to do for the rest of my life is like be a part of the battle kind of against that, as well as, just continuing to like support and uplift artists wherever I can,
Sure. Yeah. It will always be there. There's always going to be someone who takes the opportunity and then like learns the hard way, or maybe one in every 200 times it works too.
Right.
But it's really tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the first song I put on the internet ever, I was just kind of cutting my teeth in my understanding of the music industry. And I met a guy who produces under the name Drunk Girl, and I'll name drop him. His name is Andrew Hogarth, and he's a horrible person because he, in a separate situation, took advantage of me and my young artistry by licensing a song. And we worked on the song together. We'd met at 90.3 The Core when I was RPM director there. And they were doing an interview in the studio, and I was kind of like hanging out in the lounge, like trying to talk to some producers because I was interested in collaborating with people, seeing how I could be featured on tracks and start doing some songwriting.
Yeah, it's a great place to meet people. I was a DJ at the Core too, and just meeting people who like love music and shit, and like that's what it's all about, And it seems like it could be genuine at times, but then I mean, it is a lot of the time. You make real connections with people, but then I guess for that to happen.
Yeah, no, and he seemed awesome. Like we kind of hit it off, and our personalities meshed. And I showed him a like sample of my of some of my work that I've been working on, and he invited me over to try to work on a track together. And I remember this so distinctly because it was like a really pivotal time in my life. The Pulse nightclub shooting had just happened in 2016. And I was just so distraught by that specific event, specifically because of obviously the brutal murder of people in a nightclub. But the fact of the matter was they were being harmed because of their sexual orientation, because they were gay, because it was a gay nightclub, and for other reasons maybe unknown to me. But this one kind of hit differently in the sense that I know and love so many people who orient themselves this way in the world, and there should be nothing wrong with that. And these people go to a space where they're just supposed to like let loose, to dance, to party, to have a good time, to be like uninhibited and not have to worry about the chaos outside the four walls. The walls of the club,
Sure. That's a lot for a lot of those people where they go to like be themselves.
Yeah. And so I had that like all inside me, and I was presented with this track, and I wrote it in like 4 minutes, not 4 minutes. That would be light speed. 45-ish minutes to an hour. It kind of just like it was one of those times when you're kind of writing and things just like spill out with ease because of whatever maybe you're experiencing at that point in your life. And so the song is called Don't Stop the Party. And it's basically about that, like anger and like this kind of like frustration with like, why do people have to have this amount of hate when we all come from the same like fabric of the universe? We all should just be extending an invitation to everyone, like, don't stop the party, like, don't, and we finish it and we cut it, and I come back like a few days later and do some like maybe some harmonies, some vocal chop work. And he told me that there was a friend of his that does licensing for video games, and one of the video games is Rocket League. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
So the song is licensed in that game.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, it was licensed for that game in 2016, and it was a part of like their trailer for this new map called Aquadome. And
holy shit, that's huge.
It played in the main screen, and it blew up like all across streaming really quickly. And it still has a substantial amount of plays. Like for my first song to put on the internet, I couldn't believe the outcome of that.
That's a great experience. Yeah.
And I mean, it was pretty humbling, and then I was told and on paper and verbally agreed with this producer that I would receive, 50% of the royalties just from streaming. But there wasn't, obviously we licensed it for free for exposure, and that worked entirely. On the second month, like the first month, he kind of gave me my payout, showed me the bit of the stats from CD Baby. And then the second month, he was like, yeah, well, this is the last month I'm going to pay you. So I'm not really going to talk to you ever again, basically. And said something along the lines of like, welcome to the music industry. Just like
God.
a big, yeah. And I was like, oh no. And I didn't know what to do. Was blocked on everything. And like, it's just insane. Like this happens to people. Like, and even that, so even then I didn't even have the confidence that I have now to speak up about it and use my social platforms in a way that might be able to inform others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I didn't say anything about it in 2016. And that was even arguably worse of an outcome than this more recent issue. And like, shout out to my awesome entertainment lawyer, Henderson Cole, who like helped me through that when I was ready.
Yeah. That's great.
And we got a bit of a settlement, but it was hard and it was weird. And
yeah, that's really tough. So there was a contract on paper, and then they just like, he was like,
the licensing agreement. Yeah. And then the kind of like verbal, like, yeah, I'm going to definitely just give you the 50%, of the songwriting royalties that you're owed. The percentages are available for like public knowledge on like BMI and all of, the publishing information. But there wasn't a written agreement or anything about that specific payout, which was my, my naivete at the time.
Sure. Yeah. And it was licensed to, it was like he had all the credit for the song, or?
No, we both had 50% of the credit. And even in the licensing agreement, it says that as well. So, it was just a bummer, like taking it as further than we did in like court and like settlement agreements would have cost more than it would be worth.
Sure.
What then the payouts would be, but it's just unfortunate because that's a little bit of money I could be getting like monthly, steady, quarterly.
Yeah. Passive income.
As little as it is, that's a meal.
Even if it's $20. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. It's yours, you were a part of that song. That's like a really grimy move.
Oh yeah.
To do to someone. Is that person still active? Like in music?
Not so much. It seems I truly have not communicated with that person since, there were even some other incidences that were just even more of a nail in the coffin for any of that aspect of that relationship. But just overall unfortunate because I felt really played. Like I thought we had a good rapport. I thought our personalities meshed. Like, it just completely blindsided by this, by that. When it happened. Yeah.
And he could have even had good intentions. And then when like a lot of money started coming in, he was like, fuck this. It's all mine. Well, I got us in the game and like, it's so easy to go back on your word without a contract or it just sucks. I'm sorry to deal with that.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. But that's like the reason why I just don't want anyone to have to deal with that kind of stuff ever. Yeah. Like it's so money oriented in the large part of the music industry. It makes sense because everyone needs to make a living.
Yeah. When you have people on salary, it becomes a different game. Like a lot of labels are funded by other people and like they just kind of have to acquiesce to whatever to make things work,
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's when money gets involved, it really can bring out the worst in people sometimes, depending on the situation.
Really test your integrity about stuff. Yeah. So you've done freelance stuff since then. What was the site you were saying? Vocalizer. Yeah.
So
did you get paid at least for this commission on the new song?
Yeah. Like that was basically like a work for hire. So type deal. But they were still like, yeah, and we'll still give you like a part of the contract and in the future, once a song was released, like we'll still give you a portion of the royalties too. The agreements on that site can vary. Sometimes they're just strictly work for hire, and you get paid to record, perform the song, and then you don't receive any royalties, and the producer kind of just takes the track and handles it. Or there can be different arrangements depending.
Yeah, makes sense. You can work it out however you see fit. If it's a song that you think no one will care about, you could be like, pay me more.
Yeah.
And you'll still do it.
Yeah. It's interesting. But that site does have a lot of benefits in that sense. Like you can kind of craft and you can craft how you work with someone. And you also like on the producer end can really make sure the budget is known. Anybody who's interested in the gig is aware of the terms. So it's pretty like open, and I think that's like very smart, so that by the end you're not blindsided by anything from what like the original agreement is.
Yeah. Is it like an online portfolio sort? Like, does it have samples of you singing? Or
yeah. There are two types of ways to work with somebody and collaborate on this platform. One of them is like, it's called, I would say a gig. It's called just a gig. And then you can basically, the producer will put the kind of demo and then the like budget that they have. And then vocalists will bid like within that budget, what they would receive for for doing the song. And then there's like a little vocal reel for each person, similar artists that they're related to, maybe some social links. Yeah. And that all is like filed under that specific gig. And then there's a contest, which is like they put the demo up. They have a specific amount that they decide on that would be rewarded to the artist. And you have to submit the demo, like a vocal idea to that.
That's sick. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
Like 10 years ago, that wouldn't exist. It'd just be like a Craigslist ad or like a sign in a Guitar Center or Sam Ash, like vocalist wanted. So I give you respect for being able to like, cause you do need a work ethic to do it, to do like session work. I do some session work, and it's harder in some ways for drums, because like I have to set up 8 mics and like all these, I'm wrapped in cables and stuff. But it's just as challenging in a lot of ways, like the creative aspect for what you have to do, and like you're still putting a lot in your performance and everything. So I give you a lot of credit for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine doing like
I wish I could just set up one mic and be like, it's good. Room mic, fuck it, it's good, it's drums. But yeah.
How often do you do session gigs like remotely in your house?
Yeah, I've been
with your kit.
I did vibraphone on one song recently. I did trumpet and tambourine and like glockenspiel on like an emo band. Actually, a band from Jersey, Ogbert the Nerd, they're called. It's Maddie James. They've been to Chamber a bunch too. They've come to some shows, but
okay.
I've done stuff. Mostly this year was for free, I think, but like the year before, I did more for pay. It was cool. It's just like, I'm like too much of a band guy. I'm always working on stuff with all of the bands I'm playing in. At least this year. I would love next year to tell all the bands that like, all right, I'm going to like focus on my own shit now and like get paid.
Yeah, definitely focus on you. Yeah. Yeah,
it's nice. I know I have too many eggs in the band basket of like, I want to tour whenever that happens. Who fucking knows with everything?
Oh my God. Yeah. Or there's really no way to know. It feels like, it just feels like a long, far away dream at this point.
Keeps getting pushed, but the goalpost like keeps moving.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I think it's really cool, like the power of the internet, for better or worse. I mean, sometimes you can get dicked around for sure.
Yes.
I've been able to smell it more when people are like providing me like false opportunities. And like, this doesn't make any sense, But it's easy in the beginning because you're naive, you're excited.
Yes.
Just with a big name, just like if someone with more followers than you sometimes reaches out to you, it's like, oh, this is a big opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. You could be totally manipulated. Manipulated.
Yeah. It's hard, especially because so much of the industry has changed in 10 years. Digital streaming, the revenue is 80% of the music industry now. So that's like the majority of it. Physicals are like not really.
Oh yeah, it's so sad. Yeah, it's so sad. It's incredible that people still make physicals. Just kidding.
Well, like CDs are like what there's like they're basically demos. You have to basically force people to take CDs, and they're not going to listen to them at this point. So vinyl.
There's like
go on. Sorry.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, vinyl definitely I feel like is more sought after than CDs for sure, or tapes.
It passed CDs a couple years ago. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, for CDs, I feel like there's a very small percentage of people that like still listen to CDs in their car, maybe, or like have a nice old stereo that they like still listen to their CDs on, or are in radio. You still need to make CDs for radio campaigns because a lot of radio stations still only operate on CDs or physicals, which is still kind of awesome. Like I think most of my CD collection is from the core, like from my time there. And I still play them in my car every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, the appeal of physical formats to me now is that like if I put a record on, I can't have like a short attention span and I have to like sit through it, like the whole thing, like A and B. And I think with Spotify and stuff, sometimes you lose that, especially, but the cool thing about Spotify is you can make your own playlists and everything.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. The discovery features on Spotify and Apple, I think are really cool. Like you can get into a world of music that you would not have, prior, like just with physical media, being in a record store, having to dig and really listen to, aspects of a vinyl on the listening station or, something similar. And, but what I kind of ache for now is I feel like I'm becoming more and more out of touch with like albums. And I've definitely just have to like, I've been training myself to like continue the lust for the album. You know what I mean? Like thinking about albums that like you want to put on for a certain type of mood, I feel like is a skill now. And a lot of people do still have that skill, but I feel like I've lost some of it in this like very digital oriented age. So I literally like make time for vinyl because I feel like I want to like reacquaint myself with albums. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that is some of the organic appeal of a record label now is like they curate a sound or they curate artists that you fuck with. And then you're like, all right, well, they put this out. Maybe I can put this album on and dig some of it, So, well, speaking of, you do run or manage a record label, right?
Yeah, I manage Egg Hunt Records. That's based out of Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah. Why is that not a shady record label like No Face?
Well, for a myriad of reasons. First of all, we're very transparent. We are having so many. I mean, if we're talking about like specifically before signing an artist, I guess that'll be a good like way to exemplify this. Like there are so many different forms of communication that start off a relationship with an artist, and all of that communication is always continued throughout the entire process. We really believe in like collaboration, like the process, the label representative to artists shouldn't be one-sided. It should be a complete collaboration, and all, specific terms should be can and should be negotiated, talked about, and really catered to the comfortability of the artist. So we really is a huge focus for us. And I think that a lot of independent labels do have that ethos, but it's so easy to get like, I don't know, to just like, make a platform and like lose sight of the things that are really important to that kind of relationship. I think that's like our probably our biggest strong suit, and we're completely personable people. We care about everyone we work with, like, deeply, not just their art, but them as like people. And we value their work. We know how long it took them to make it. We know why we value it. We know why we want to promote it and spend all this money and time building it up, because all we want to do is see them excel. Like,
Sure.
our kind of one of our, I guess, mission statements is like, I call it a kind of like incubator, like not just because it's like egg hunt. It does play into the branding of it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it is the reality of it. We have fostered a lot of young artists that have gone on to bigger labels that kind of grow so big that we can't even, support them to where they have, grown to, like, their level that they've grown to. And we kind of pride ourselves in that, nothing is forever. Like, if the relationship continues, it's like, that's amazing. But if they're ready, for these bigger opportunities, these larger platforms, that's like even better. We're like so proud that we could have fostered them in the beginning at all,
That's a good way to look at it. And then, like, long run, that will also help you because people will dig through their band's catalog and then dig through your label's catalog and everything.
Right.
So,
like, our most well-known alumni is Lucy Dacus, which a lot of artists who submit to the label for possible collaborations are oftentimes find the label through that connection, which makes a lot of sense. She's an absolutely incredible artist and has done so many incredible things since her time with Egg Hunt.
Yeah, that's big of you guys to realize too, that like, we can't handle what this band needs anymore. And like, they want to move on. So like, maybe it's the right time.
Yeah. It's the reality of the situation. Like, we're a smaller label that's oftentimes local oriented. There's a lot of amazing music out of Richmond. We're not going to try to just like keep this artist because we see how big they are. It's just not the reality of the situation. Our resources are basically limited in that sense because we're a small label.
Yeah. And it's more indie rock alternative stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lot of indie rock. There's some harder punk stuff on the in our repertoire. And then, some popper leaning stuff, popish. What are genres?
Yeah, they're all fake. It's all fake words. So.
Like this past year, we put out this incredible, I would call it indie country or alt country record by this artist called Doe Eyes. Her name's Ali. Her actual name is Ali Thibodeau, and she put out an incredible record this year, probably one of my favorites. We also put out another incredible singer-songwriter whose artist name is Thin Lear. His name's Matt. Also an absolutely stunning record. So yeah, I guess like all in that, a lot of stuff in the vein of like indie singer-songwriter, indie rock, alt rock. But then also, we kind of I would say like expand in and out of those kind of those niches.
Sure, it's never pigeonholed to,
Right. Like we also put out a shoegaze record this year.
Yeah, if you like it, you like it. It could still work with the vibe.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because like a few bands I have worked with have been approached by bigger labels, and I'm always like, fuck, like, I'm like, no, stay. Like, cause I'm very indignant cause it's like math rock, emo, punk shit. And like, I'm very indignant to what the music industry is a lot of the time. Cause when it gets really big, I get that people have they have a family to feed or whatever, but like it gets really big that it gets to like pay to play shows. You have like local bands selling tickets because the band seems cool. And like a lot of just fake, like, it gets weird at a point. So like, I'm always like kind of upset when a band wants, I get it always. I'm like, yo, do whatever is best. And like, it's cool. But one of the bands I worked with in the past was approached by a bigger label, and they told me recently, they were like, because they did their newest album with them. And recently they were like, yeah, like it was a mistake. I should have stayed with you. And it made me feel so good. It did.
Yeah.
It's shitty because like I wanted them to do well. I wasn't like mad when they signed with the label. I'm like, that's amazing. But like when they told me that, I was like, word, like it made me feel like I was doing something right.
Yes. Well, sometimes it's not about the deal or maybe even like the legacy of the label. Sometimes it's so much about the relationship. Like, I think that is to be said a lot for like management, like a lot of artists will stay, like when they find, it's kind of like finding a therapist, I think too, probably like when you when you find like your right person, it's like you're in sync, like it's so much easier to operate and it's comfortable. And if they're, really performing well for you and getting these opportunities, sometimes it's like, it's just best to continue growing with each other as opposed to like going to Universal to have a really horrible 360 deal that they own your life and your likeness and in all known universes and all that. Yeah.
That was the dream. Like in the past, like 20 years ago, you would have I guess no, a lot of people still got boned and it still didn't work out, but like it always seemed so ideal. Like this is it, like making it. Remember when like making it was an idea? Like, oh, we made it. Like there's a line you cross and then all of a sudden like your life is set.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't even know if like somebody like Billie Eilish would be like, well, you know what? She's probably like, yeah, I made it. Cause she got like 6 Grammys. Okay. Maybe that's a horrible.
But they're still working. They're still working
right.
artists. The landscape has changed a lot. There's less rock stars, which I think is good because like they were grimy in a lot of ways, like, abusive people and like, celebrity culture still exists and that's fine. But I think social media kind of did pull the curtain back in a lot of ways. And I think that was necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how much closer we can, I guess not closer, but how much more celebrities are willing to share on social media as opposed to maybe, a couple years ago or like 20 years ago, when these platforms just weren't even a thing. And, it would be really annoying to have paparazzi. I mean, I guess that still exists, but
it's like they're their own paparazzi now, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, and then that's just like a different kind of willingness to share. I don't know.
I bet they have managers for their social media. Like,
oh, sure.
Once it gets to like a high enough level. So,
yeah.
I mean,
oh my God.
Britney Spears' dad and her Instagram, like that's a whole mess, right?
Oh yeah. I've heard a bit about that. There are some weird conspiracies around that. Do you know about that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I think they're real, but I can't.
Are they? Yeah. I don't know.
Because they'll be like, in the comments, they'll be like, Brittany, wear red in the next video if you need help. And then she'll like be wearing red, but it'll say like, hey everyone, I'm totally fine. There's a not conservatory. The dad basically owns all of her music, owns her social media, is like her, he speaks for her. Like with music reps and stuff. And that's how it was since she was a kid, but I don't think it ever changed. So like, it's sad. It's something, sad.
Yeah, there's something not kosher going on with that. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Oh God.
Yeah, it's really sad. I think people get a taste of money and shit gets weird, because that was back in the day when there was a lot of money. I mean, I guess there still is now. Money. I don't know. I don't really see it. Like I barely consider what I do a record label. I complain when people put like choke artist records and like press things. Cause I don't know. I'm a very stupid, like cynical DIY guy. It's really just me putting money into pressing records and then doing mail order,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to think that like there's a sound curated and like I'm helping bands, like I'll book shows and stuff too. And like, I try to do stuff that I think people will enjoy, like, talking to different people and their experiences too, you know, but, it's just,
I like that idea. I like that idea of, being more than just a label, like actually fostering a certain type of community, within the entity, offering a bit more than just like an LP or a cool artist and artworks, and more, and also a way to engage with the people who put out the music as well as all of the artists collectively, maybe, and maybe doing that by like specific type of shows like what you do. And that's definitely a super interesting and beautiful concept. I think also in like the indie label world, there are some labels that really strike that incredible balance of like being really human, especially online, is like where I, enter and see and interact with a lot of these companies, of being like super human and like down to earth, and not just like this like new LP is out today and you can get it on Bandcamp, and then like end of any kind of personality or interest in the like fans or audience.
It's funny because that would be considered like people want a genuine connection now with like anything, like any brand. But like back in the day, that would maybe seem unprofessional. Like, why are you talking like a human? You're a corporation,
Right. Yeah, I like that that's kind of getting stripped back a little bit, and we're kind of just like, leaving more of the bullshit on the cutting room floor, and maybe like just
totally.
like being cool.
That's so much of it. Like, I don't know why people pretend that it's anything else except like being nice and working with artists you like and helping release their music,
Oh God. Yeah. Like if it was only that easy to just like literally be nice and want to work with the people that you're working with. Like, I think that's like my baseline. Like I can say that I do that. Like I am nice and work with people that I like to work with and I'm passionate about it. But there's just layers and layers of things that need to happen in order to really make it work. And, that's the work. Like, and that's why, the fuel is that baseline passion though.
Totally.
What I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It makes you more willing to put up with the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you go through the submissions for the label?
Yeah. I do receive submissions in my inbox. Not too many, honestly. It's just interesting. But I also help with A&R by just, researching artists, getting in touch with artists that I like or, are interested in collaborating with as well. Yeah.
I mean, that's all super helpful stuff, I think, like to do. A&R is like working with press outlets.
A&R stands for like artists and repertoire. It's essentially, the process of searching for artists and then, how they kind of live in your catalog. And then how your relationship with them, like, just basically reaching out to artists, young artists that you see have potential, or, maybe artists that have made a specific name for themselves, and just basically saying, hi, I love your music. Like, I think if anybody watching this has gotten an email from me, like an A&R email, the subject line has literally said, hey, I love your music. Like, that's what I usually open with because I feel like it's important to really, just reach out as a fan for like primarily, because that's like the catalyst for like you're talking to them anyway. And then just be like, I would love to know like what's going on in your musical journey, who you are, why you're doing this, and then maybe like possibly collaborating. Who knows? But yeah, that's actually some of the best work I think involved in a label, is just creating relationships that way is really cool for me.
Yeah. Especially if you do have that approach, like as a fan first, because then worst case, they reply back and say, thanks, we're not looking to take anything on right now. But like,
yeah. I've gotten that over and over again, and it's totally fine. But then it's cool. It's like, even so maybe down the line, they have another type of release that they think they could be good for our roster. Like, that's a connection they can just go back to, in their email in the archives of their brain and be like, oh, I remember that person. They seemed nice and interested in my music.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It counts for something, you know,
Yeah.
especially if what you're doing.
Know.
Yeah. And you're working with artists in a fair way, and you have a sound and you promote the albums, right? Through different, it's funny. I've done like a 180 on press in the past like year. Cause again, cynical old guy. But I've been like, all press is stupid. You have to pay for it. It's like, who cares? Like if people want the music, they'll find it on Bandcamp. But like, I think the reality is that a lot of times people don't, cause there's so much out there, right?
Yeah.
Like lot of stuff everywhere hitting you at every angle, paid ads, like, you know, so if there's a site you trust, or if you see a band that you've heard of is featured on a site, you might be more likely to click it sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes it's bullshit. I think, like New Noise magazine in particular, I've had labels tell me, and like, I think you pretty much, you pay for a publicist to get them to feature on your site, at least on the low level. And like, it's a long-standing publication zine. I'm sure it's done great things. Yeah. And, I've heard that they kind of, you know, you're getting people to click on their site and giving them traffic for what? Just like for a name attachment to it. Right. I should probably edit this part out. I feel like,
I mean, I will say like, yeah, the PR surrounding an album release is important. I feel like, especially artists just kind of, you know, maybe doing their first release or something, getting their name out there, making it really searchable online because it's been covered in a couple outlets. It really can act as a part of a resume for an artist. It goes into your EPK, you know, for other people to feel it legitimizes artists. You know, unfortunately, like, of course, like we wish that the music could just stand alone, the artistry could just stand alone, and the people that are most importantly, like, gravitated towards it, that would just be it, you know, and it would just make its way through the noise because of it. But that's just unfortunately not the reality. Yeah. And it also, I guess, there is something to be said for great music writing and for your music to be compelling enough to music writers to really, you know, pick apart and dissect and just like live with and interpret through language, I think is insane. Like, I feel like music writers really just don't get like enough love anywhere, not in their paychecks, not on the internet. Like, and it is just an absolute, like, absolutely beautiful craft. I think it takes a lot of passion and knowledge to be able to consistently write about music and do it well. And
definitely doing it well. Like it's a skill, you know. I've had to write like 4 sentences about releases that I've done. It takes me like an hour to get it like perfect, you know, like, to a point where I'm happy with it. But I think you are right about a lot of the press stuff. And I think I am just too like shitty about that stuff sometimes. And I have kind of turned a leaf on it where you want to get people as excited about a release as you can, right? You want the band to feel like they're important. Cause I've definitely done releases over the years where the band was like, what the fuck did you even do for us besides pay for vinyl? Like I will definitely admit that like the first few years I did this, I didn't really understand. I had a flip phone until 2014. I was just out of the loop about stuff. You know, I'd like to think I'm doing a little better now. And I think the past year, it's been like the most consistent as far as like releases and everything. But a lot matters with going into press and everything. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's huge. I actually started out the year as 3 months before the pandemic hit, I got a job as a tour publicist. So that's what I was like on one of my positions. Also, I, you know, do the label management, and I started as a tour publicist 3 months prior to March. So yeah, like around, you know, December, January. And yeah, I, you know, just felt like I was kind of getting in a groove. And then I had to really completely pivot and do live stream press, which is admittedly harder than tour press.
Because everyone's figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a real thing. I've been kind of playing it off like, oh, it's not even a thing that people do, and I feel like a lot of press people are probably less inclined to try because there are just infinite live streams, it seems, and they're happening. They could just be, an artist playing songs in their room, or they could be a really cool fleshed out bill that is raising money for charity, which, those kinds of things like get, more traction and will probably be more frequently listed on sites that do list live streams. But a lot of sites don't even have, they just don't have the space or time to list them all, even if you submit them, or, send a pitch to somebody who does the listings at a given site. But your live stream has to be extra mega compelling to get a write-up about it. So, and I think there are some that have successfully been able to receive that type of press, but yeah, it's a totally different world. It's totally different approach. And that was an interesting learning curve. And I feel like I'm still learning about it all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of, I guess, money that artists make is through touring. The majority of money that an artist makes in 2020 was, well, not this year, but I guess, in the past few years is through that. And now it's just been taken away. So it's fucking hard. Definitely.
Yeah. Cause even, the ticket sales, and then a lot more people are inclined to buy the physical product, a t-shirt, any type of merch item at the gig when they either maybe they just saw the artist for the first time, they didn't know them before, go over to the merch table, make a new connection, buy a t-shirt, or, this is a band that somebody loves and they strictly want to buy the vinyl at the show. It's just so much easier to convince, I feel like, a fan, concert goer to buy an album when you're at the show.
They're there and they're probably on a dopamine high because they just saw you play. As long as you were good and they're like, I love this band, I want to support them, I want to rep them, I want to order their merch. So
it's a bummer.
It's hard. I saw a band they did a live show. It aired over the weekend, and they had an exclusive vinyl variant at the live show. So you buy a ticket to this live show, and then at the end, you can add this record to your cart. And that seems like a pretty cool thing to do too.
Smart.
You got to do something, because they just released an album a couple months ago, and then it was amidst all of this happening. Mm-hmm. So no touring, right?
Yeah.
So you pay people to stream you on their TV. And that's,
with
a good sound system, it's cool. I think it's cool, if it's done right, I guess.
I think this is a really good time for introverts,
Yeah.
You don't have to leave your house, see your favorite artist, play a show. You can just play on your TV. I guess it is cool now that it is winter time to literally only have access to shows online. You don't have to brave the cold, but obviously I truly miss live shows probably more than anything right now.
Yeah. It's sucks. That was a lot of what I did. On weekends,
Truly didn't really realize how much of my social life and going out was really actually just shows versus anything else.
Yeah. Just, at least a couple a month, and now it's just zero,
Yeah.
So you booked a lot for Chamber, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we should
43.
We should talk about your involvement there a little bit, because you were a big part of it for a while, right?
I sure was. I started out working there.
Wait, for the listeners, this is a record shop in Highland Park, right?
Yes. They actually just moved to New Brunswick.
Yeah. Yeah. On George Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I started working there in 2017 in the summer, and it was just like the super early stages. This is like phase 1 of Chamber 43.
the older, smaller location,
Yeah,
right?
this yeah, and it was like my dream job, honestly. From the minute I started working there, not only was I starting to meet some incredible people that I'd be surrounded by for the next 2 to 3 years, but I was really able to like cultivate the community there. Like there weren't shows there really before I came on. I had a lot of new types of ideas. I was tapped into the DIY music scene in New Brunswick, so I was able to book so many bands from New Brunswick and really pull that community towards Highland Park a bit in like an interesting way. And experiment with different types of shows, themed shows, open mics, which were some of my favorite moments of my life, just like running an open mic, meeting people who perform at open mics, and then becoming, not like, I guess not just like a local to them, but like really just this interesting, cool relationship where it's like they would either frequent every week or you wouldn't see them for a while and they'd come back and it'd be like, oh, where you been? Like, that kind of just like camaraderie, like so absolutely gorgeous. And I definitely want to continue that kind of curation, event coordination, and like hospitality, basically, like in the future, once
you definitely
live
helped,
events reappear.
Yeah, you definitely helped cultivate something there where like there was regulars, like people would just come to hang because it was a cool spot. Awesome, like records, antiques, and everything. The vibe was like always cool, and there was always cool events,
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh yeah, it was great. It was the first time I was really able to have a large, if not all, of this type of creative control in a space that was like a legitimate business that needed someone to do this. I wasn't really like guided or taught how to do it. I mean, I just knew, like, I know how to throw parties, and like I started throwing shows in my basement. I had a basement venue like years prior to this. So like it was just already something I knew I enjoyed. I knew like everything that I needed. I could moderately like mix a live band, like with a shitty PA and, make it work. I like, all of that kind of stuff was like already kind of in my skill set in a very DIY way. And then this was still like mostly DIY, but I was able to really like flex my creativity and like, the entire curation design. Any of the like stuff hanging from the ceiling, anything visual that was in the space was all me. Like,
wow.
The placement of stuff, the way the store looked at all was really facilitated by me. And I was really proud of a lot of shows, a lot of the diversity of the shows that happened there. How much we were able to involve and incorporate throughout my time there was like really special. And it wouldn't have been as special if it wasn't for the people who came. Like, obviously that's what makes the event, is like the people who actually show up, who show interest, who want to know about the music, who want to like talk to you about the store. Like, it's just so rewarding.
Totally. That's a rare thing to see, is a freestanding record store / venue, Mm-hmm. So I think people in this area especially cherished it. I did. I always thought it was like the sickest thing that it could even exist. Because like the logistics of something like that existing, like especially cost of money wise, like doesn't make sense a lot of the time. It's like,
it's not like we were like rolling in cash, you know, there were a lot of nights, like a lot of shows where you just either break even on any type of costs or make almost no money because all of the proceeds would go right back to the artists, you know, like we didn't really keep a lot of those ticket sales. Like a lot of the time it was just straight back to the artists, because even if we kept like, we would maybe try to keep like 15%, if that, you know, that's like, depending on the type of show, is just, it's like, it could be like $9 for us, for example.
Sure.
And then by that point, like whenever we would just be like, just give that to the artists.
Yeah.
Give it to the artists, because, you know, a lot of people are taking so much time out of their life to come like play a 45-minute set. Like, at least that's gas money for if it's a touring band, you know, whatever. Like, you know, and obviously like all bands are like free to sell their merch. They keep all the proceeds for that. We would even buy a lot of records from bands, you know, too. So we would spend probably a lot more than we would be earning.
But you're putting you put back into a community, and then like people wanted to keep coming because they felt like they were a part of something too.
Yeah.
You know? So all the shows I ran there, they were always super fair. I ran shows later, like 2019, maybe one in 18, but they were always super fair to me there with like running it. I always appreciated it. And then like a lot of people who came were like, this place is awesome. I want to buy something that the store is selling just to support it. So
yeah. And that was nice. When that's what also would help us is during those shows, you know, we would get a totally different pool of people coming in. So they maybe hadn't already gone through all of our collection or see something quirky and interesting in the antique section that they liked and would end up buying it at the shows. And sometimes we'd profit a lot for that reason. So it did help, you know, sales for the store when shows did happen. Some nights, not all the time.
Sure.
But,
yeah. And I think part of that too is the way you made the store look like a cool place to be, and like records are out and there's antiques. So you're definitely a big part of it, you know? So I always appreciated it. So.
Oh yeah. I know how much of an important role I played. And I was really just like so happy to be a kind of, I don't know, like a grounding energy for it. Like I loved it. Like it was truly, I felt like I was supposed to be there, you know, when I was there, like just talking to everyone, like greeting people, meeting people, making sure all the artists have like stuff that they need. Like,
yeah,
it just really felt, and then like during the day, like making the window, designing the window and, or whatever. And, you know, just making sure stuff is placed in cool ways and experimenting with like the shop's like orientation. It was just like an art project for me all the time. And I loved it. I loved all of it. And I'm so glad that like people who came in and were able to experience like something like different and interesting and were able to, you know, just like be a part of it at all. Like I'm so glad to hear like that is just like a stark memory for you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was actually my
pleasure.
The only time I ever did a stand-up comedy set was the Switch Up show where you did like a rant monologue, right? So I talked about doing I
was just thinking.
Yeah, I talked about doing an open mic set.
You were so good.
That I practiced. Thank you. But
you were so good.
It was fun.
That whole bill was absolutely insane.
That was such a fun show.
It was so good.
Yeah, front to back.
So good. Like I was blown away because all of the people who were doing. I mean, obviously, kudos to Chelsea Morosky. Shout out Chelsea for conceptualizing this, because it's like awesome concept, and then it's so cool, especially in the community, like being local and seeing these people who you only know like by doing music come out and just like completely like not do that and like do comedy and then kill it. Like all of you guys were like closeted comedians. Amazing.
Yeah, I'd wanted to do that for like years. And then Chelsea had asked me, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's go 1 month to try to write something that is okay. And I was so nervous though. I was practicing in my house, in a silent room by myself, just like, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, your monologue was really cool too. That was like awesome to see. Yeah.
I also practiced that in a room alone.
Yeah. Scary stuff. There's no bands. There's no music behind me. Just, behind us. Just so, yeah.
Oh my God. That was such a good show. Wow. God. Seems like that's the stuff that I missed for sure. It was like going to see comedy.
Yeah.
It's like a Monday.
Totally. What else is there to do on a fucking Monday anyway?
Yeah, go have a laugh.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. So have things been going okay with working for your label? Like working with Egg Hunt?
Yeah. Egg Hunt is really cool. I love this, like my favorite type of work, along with events and curation and all of that world as well. We have so far like 2 really incredible releases lined up for next year. So we're kind of, in the plotting phase of that. And in large part, we really have everything ready for the rollout, but just kind of, putting together different types of strategy, marketing stuff, all is in the process right now. And we actually this year merged with Northern Spy label group that's based in Brooklyn. So we now have a really interesting and intricate ways of operating that have been just like completely beneficial to our organization, budgeting, different types of marketing, and then just like expanded resources like PR, radio, all in-house now. And it opens up the team in this really beautiful way. Like there's 4 labels associated with the label group. So it's Egg Hunt, Ramp Local, NNA Tapes, and Northern Spy. And now we have basically that's like all of the labels in this group kind of function in a bit of a team oriented way, especially when vetting new releases for any label. There's a lot of like feedback given from all of the label sure. representatives and even publicists, and just that process is really really cool because you can just see how a lot of people view the potential of the music versus it being just me and the CEO of Egg Hunt, the owner of Egg Hunt. His name's Adam Henseroth. He's a cool dude.
Nice.
But yeah, like just having this kind of really solid infrastructure has been super beneficial to a small label like us. So I'm really excited to see how it shows progress in like the release schedule coming up for this year with all of this new kind of operational stuff in place.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like everyone has something to offer. And like, I think it's always good to bounce ideas off as many people as you see fit. Yeah. 'Cause I try not to show people shit where they're going to just be like, yeah, this is awesome. Like I want people to poke holes in everything I do.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly. Like that's the total purpose of it. And I love that because it just like, it allows for an open conversation. It allows you to, have different perceptions on the music. Not everybody has the same taste. So it's cool to see just how, people react to something that might be totally out of their wheelhouse or completely in their wheelhouse. And like those different types of conversations that like revolve around that, just like basic thoughts. And it's just like, so that's been super, super beneficial to Egg Hunt for sure.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. I'm going to have to dig through the catalog. I wrote down Lucy Dacus, and I'm going to have to check out, what were the other 2 from this year that you were recommending?
Doe Eyes and Thin Lear.
Cool.
Fantastic. And also you should check out Clever Girls. We also put out 2 of their singles this past year. They're actually what I would say is like the first band I signed. I didn't contract them specifically, but I did like bring them to the label by like creating. Actually, our relationship started at Chamber when I booked them for a show. They're from Burlington, Vermont, and they were kind of like doing this little East Coast tour, and I had them come play one of the Blossoming of the Wild Pussy Willows shows. I don't know if you remember those, but
where were those actually? I don't think I remember those.
Those were like completely female or non-binary artists, like bills. That we just came up with an outrageous name for that. And, I just like hung willows from the walls and stuff like that. But
cool.
Yeah, they came out for a show. And I honestly was like so surprised that they showed up because I just thought they were so good. And I was like, oh my God, like this really cool band's like going to come. And all the music that like I booked at Chamber is all music I like, which is also really incredible to be able to literally just make shows that you would want to go to. So it was like so cool. So so I booked them, and that kind of I think kicked off like our conversations and our relationship and possibility of working together in a more fleshed out and official sense. And then probably a couple months later we signed them for 2 singles, and now we're putting out their record at the beginning of the year, and it's so good. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about their record. Yeah. I really am.
Isn't it great when you like work for bands that you love? Like, just so fucking stoked on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's really incredible. Like, so Doe Eyes and Clever Girls also ended up in my like Spotify Wrapped like top songs of the year even. Yeah. Like not even because I work with them, but because I like their songs so much. So like 1 or 2 of the songs that I've been listening to so much just like obviously ended up in there because I had them on repeat a lot. But yeah, definitely check all those people out and just keep a lookout for what we got hatching next year.
Damn it. And you're in a band too, right? Powerlines?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I am in a band. We're called Powerlines, and we actually just finished up our record, got the masters like last week. So we're working on a really special rollout for that as our like first record.
Yeah. This is where your like experience will come in handy too.
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm going to do a majority of the PR and like rollout stuff.
You
myself.
Probably are. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Yeah.
Which I'm like, as you can see, we're really thrilled about it. Like I can so much more easily do that type of work for somebody that's not me. It's like, it's so interesting and weird how I feel so much more compelled to do that type of work for other people and like, not me, like not my solo stuff. Like it took me until this year to even get in the studio on my own and like record my own songs. And then, with the band, like, I'm going to probably do it myself. But yeah, like just like thinking about doing it for myself is like even more agonizing than like, or just it is agonizing versus like me just on a weekly basis, like doing that kind of work for clients. Like,
do you feel weird putting yourself out there?
I think so. I think as a performer and artist, I've always had a sense of insecurity, which I think has stopped me from putting out work more than I have. But I feel like that kind of shell is cracking.
Is that another egg pun, or was that just like?
Oh my God! Wow, it was. I didn't even try. And I was related to myself. Oh my God.
No, that's good. That's good though. Yeah, it's good. You're feeling more comfortable with like being you.
I think. Yeah, I think. I don't know. I definitely am too. I just scrutinize myself. I'm sure you might feel this way as a musician, just being like super nitpicky about a song or a part.
It's all I do.
Yeah. And then, you just work on that song for like 8,000 months and like it maybe never comes out. And like,
Yeah.
and it's just, I don't know, you just judge yourself. And I really am trying so hard. I mean, I try all the time, you know, to change that conversation with myself, to like really, because there's so many people that are so supportive of me, of my band. And like, it's never enough to overcome the own internal dialogue, you know, it's like never enough, which is so unfortunate because of course, like getting good feedback from people you love, just supporters, like is so amazing, but it really can't outweigh like your own judgment of
everything. Yeah.
The coconut.
I mean, you're obviously super talented, right? To have a song like worked with artists and been like widely received and things. So, but I get the idea that you're going to be most critical of yourself because you want to keep refining and stuff. But then eventually you have to be like, no, this is cool. Let's like keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of the process.
Oh yeah. I know it. You know, you have to like, really start believing in yourself because like, you know, I think people who just put their music out and you just have to be behind it. You have to be fully behind it for it to go farther. And I'm just trying to like get behind myself more. And yeah, it's a process. You're right. Fully.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that stuff. And, you know, the more excited you are about it, the more excited other people will be about it too.
Yeah, so, it's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll wrap
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. This is really cool.
No, it's cool to talk about all this stuff. I can definitely get your perspective because, like, again, I come from, I don't know, you have more experience actually doing like things that help artists in a lot of ways, where for me, it's like, I'll just post about it and like, I'm still learning. So I appreciate your insight with a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Too, you know?
Sure. And you help artists. You definitely help.
But I always want to thank you. I always want to like pick other people's brains about it too.
Oh yeah. I love talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. Yeah. I look forward to seeing more of your podcast and conversations too.
Thanks. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, if you're listening, check out Egg Hunt Records, check out Deanna's music, check out Powerlines. And thanks for listening. All right.
Thanks.